known Chloe for a couple months now.
Don't
and I
shortchange us like that.
No, listen, I cannot finish.
No, because you started wrong.
This is the
started wrong.
I've known Chloe for just a few months now, and I feel like it's are
been
kindred
over half
spirits.
a year, though. I just want y'all to know.
But still, I feel like I've known you for longer than that. I feel like I've known you for like 20 years. Like you're a girlfriend that I've had since back in the day,
with the
right?
French roll.
With the French roll, right? We'll get into the French roll. Can you stop?
I need all the laughter for this.
Okay, so this, like, Chloe literally, I talked about her in another episode, and I was saying, my brand designer, before we met in person, she was like, I'm really trying to figure you out. I'm trying to figure out your style, who you are. And she was like, you are giving, not trying to be offensive, but you're giving dry. And I was like, okay, I understand it. I get it. Like, I don't really share much. I don't really share a lot of my personality online. That's just who I am naturally. And I also talked on another episode about kind of escaping the corporate veil. So what I really appreciate about Chloe is like, she gets this side to come out of me. And I get that side to come out of her. So that's why I say I've known you for way longer than the 6 months that we've known each other and have worked together.
100%.
So I appreciate you for that. And I want to say thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you for letting me be me unapologetically, because I feel as a service provider, of course, there's a certain expected level of professionalism, but I will always tell anyone, I'm a human first.
Right.
And I want you to see that before you're like, oh, she's just a business owner or just a creative or whatever the case may be. Like, I'm a human first. I like to enjoy myself. I like to laugh. Like, I like to have energetic conversations no matter who it is. And I'm pretty sure you can say, like, that's my thing. But unless the client works with me and actually gives me time to build that rapport, you might not see it.
Right. And Chloe is such a joy to work with because she is herself. And also, I think she reciprocates the same energy and allowing me to be myself.
Yeah.
And not too many people you come across when you're working with them allow you that space, right? Or that grace and reciprocate it. So I really appreciate that.
I'm glad.
All right. So we started out acting a damn fool, talking about some of my favorite words.
But it was real.
Yes,
That's
it was
the thing.
definitely real. So I want to let's get into the heavy stuff first, and then we'll, get that out the way.
All right, let's do it.
Because I do want to talk to you about your experiences and some of the things that you've gone through, a few years ago, especially as you were building your business, right?
Yeah.
So take me back and take the audience back to that time, that tough time in your life when you were experiencing in the middle and in the center of an abusive relationship.
Yeah. It was a lot. And I think it was because that was actually like my first adult relationship. So in my mind, I was misconstruing a lot of things as support. Or in his mind, he was helping me push to my best self. I'm like, I don't think that that's it. Like, he was like, you lack discipline. I'm like, well, I don't think it's your place to discipline me. So building a business, a lot of times, I don't think people realize, and the reason, like I said, I'm a human first. So a lot of times being a human is what trickles into your business, as it should, because it's run by people. Whether you have a corporation, it's people working for you. That's why if you look at company websites, there's the morals. There's, what that company stands for. It's a thing. But when you're a solopreneur, that whole business is what you stand for, what you're going through, and it will reflect. So during that time, because he was abusive, it would be a lot of times where I would speak my mind because I know I needed to, but be punished for it or got hands put on. You know what I'm saying? So it got to a point where I didn't want to confront, and I would bury feelings. I would bury thoughts. I would just try to stay silent to avoid conflict. And in building a business, especially like an up-level business, because I have a premium price point, and I'm aware of that. It's always been higher than typical because of my talent, and I'm confident in that as well. However, clients want communication. Like, no matter what you pay for, clients want communication. Like, people joke all the time, like, a $50,000 client will just pay the invoice versus someone who paid $400. And they want to talk all the time. Like, you're still supposed to talk to people. It doesn't matter what the price point is, but I was unable to do that because I was so used to speaking up and being punished for it. So whenever a client was upset, I wouldn't say anything until I had something to deliver. So a lot of times for anyone who's like working with creatives or whatever the case may be, they could just be going through something. I'm not saying it's that, and I would never wish abuse on anyone, but it could be that, you know, like it could be they're going through something and they don't know how to vocalize that. Then everyone tells you, okay, you got to keep your business and your personal separate. And some people really take that to heart. So it's like, well, I can't tell them about my personal life, so I'm not going to say anything. That's not the case either. So I'm finally at that point where, thank God, not only am I out of that relationship, but I'm able to confidently speak on it. I'm able to, even if I don't have something done for a client, I'm able to say, hey, little behind, and realize it's okay. Because also the difference is that was a face-to-face altercation all the time. These are emails and texts. So to not be able to communicate because you're scared of what'll happen, and these are people that are not even in front of you. You know what I mean? That's a lot. And I had to realize how detrimental it was to my business, yes, but to me as a person.
So when you were in the relationship, did it start out abusive? Did it?
No.
Like, when did that happen? And were there signs before the abuse started?
I think there were verbal signs. I definitely can see how a lot of times women, sometimes we may think, whether subconsciously or unsubconsciously, we may think we can change a man, you know? And I don't think I realized I had that mentality because of what I thought love was or what I thought a relationship was. Like, I didn't have that. I grew up in a single parent household, just me and my mom. So I didn't know how a man was supposed to treat a woman. You know, all I had was Lifetime movies, just being completely honest, like not trying to be funny. But in my mind, I was supposed to have a high school sweetheart. I was supposed to have this. So there was a lot that I didn't understand, I feel like, about relationships at that time. But he had told me like that he didn't get along with his mom. And it's like, men look at how they're going to treat a woman also based on how they treated their mom, you know, and things like that. So I'm like, that should have been a red flag, because you don't respect your mom. Who under that are you really going to respect? You know what I mean? I'm like, well, maybe if he just sees a softer side or see that women can be good or whatever the case may be. But obviously that's not how it goes. But it was always that. I think maybe about 6 months in. And it was a 4-year relationship. So this was mostly abusive the whole time.
What was the not breaking point, but what was the point for you to take action to step out of the relationship?
I think they were the same for me. They were synonymous, the breaking point and the step out. Because I mentally was done with the relationship in 2018. It continued maybe about 6 more months after that. So I was mentally already withdrawn, but it took him choking me to be like, oh no, like this is, and I had been praying for an amicable split because I didn't want to be hurt, physically harmed, you know? So I had been praying for an amicable split for a while to even get to where I got to get out of it. And I'm just happy to be out of it, but it still didn't even really end. That was May 2019. He still didn't move out till November 2019. So I was still out of a relationship and still felt trapped for another half year. So I'll say a year to get out of it.
And what types of support? Did you have support? Did you seek support? Were you able to speak to people, or did you kind of go through this
I went through this alone.
By yourself?
I think I did this alone by choice. I definitely I have guy friends that are married, you know, because I'm still a small person. I'm legit 5 feet tall and
she's
everything.
Bite size, even though
I'm
thinks
literally
she's my height.
this big. And I'm fine with that. It's okay, you know, short people, but big Chloe energy. So I think I did this alone by choice. Not that I couldn't have sought help, but my mom, you know, moms just. They just know stuff. I never said anything to her, but she was like, let me know if he hitting you. And I was like, no, Mom, it's fine. Because I didn't want her hurt, though. Because his mentality was just different. And I didn't want to bring anybody else into it. You know what I mean? Like, he would say, I wish you would call the police. Like, I was scared to do anything else. But at the same time, I was like, I don't think he gonna hurt me, but you don't know. And I'm glad it never got past what it did, but I know that for some people it might have. Or a lot of people didn't find out about it till I was out of it completely and he was gone. And they were like, well, why you didn't tell me? You know, I would have pulled up this. And I'm grateful for my tribe of people, both guys and girls. But I'm like, if I have guy friends that are married, I don't want them getting mixed up. I'm not their woman to protect. You know what I'm saying? And other women, of course, I'm like, they're the same strong points as me in some ways because I'm a woman too.
Right.
So I didn't want people who weren't meant to be in the situation getting wrapped up in it. It doesn't matter to me that they didn't mind. I'm grateful. But I'm like, I don't want something happening to someone that it didn't have to. And I'm like, this is still my battle in a lot of ways.
So when you decided to leave, what was that? What shifted for you in your mindset? What was it that, you know, or I guess when you decided you had already mentally checked out of the relationship and then he moved out, what was were the shifts that you actually had to go through in order to get to the big Chloe energy? Because that's what we see here today, right?
It's definitely
and I'm so appreciative that she is here. But what shifts did you have to make to actually get to that point?
First, the mental shift. One thing that he said a lot that didn't resonate with me, and I've never like put this out, but he was like, the ancestors said you need punishing. I said, what you're not about to do is blame the ancestors. Okay, that was literally like the...
You know what that reminds me of?
What?
Have you seen the movie Bad Vegan on Netflix?
I think I've seen like the thing, but I haven't seen the movie.
So, quick sidebar. One of my favorite vegan restaurants in New York City was called Pure Food and Wine. The owner who was running it, I forget her name, but she had met this guy and he essentially was like testing her. He was mentally abusing her, essentially saying like, oh, my family, you have to go through this test. And so he wound up getting her to give him millions of dollars by testing her, by blaming it on like the universe and all these other things. And she kind of like, you know, went with it. She wholeheartedly believed. And then she also believed that he was going to allow her and her dog to be immortal. Right? So just thinking about that, like when you talk about the ancestors, for you to say it didn't resonate with me, I'm so glad it didn't. But like for this woman in this story, it just reminded me of that because she wholeheartedly believed like she and her dog would be immortal.
Yeah, he was definitely manipulative in that way. Like he thought his self-studying, and this is something I had to realize, like, because he wanted me to like study certain things, you know, with him. And I don't mind being open-minded to things. I know everyone's beliefs are different. Plus I like to understand people because in what I do, and you know, in the way that I brand, I literally want to know everything that you don't mind sharing. Please let me know it, because I need that to come out in the branding. You know what I mean? So I didn't mind like studying, like we went to like African history classes and stuff. Like I do know what I took away from the relationship. But at the same token, it's like, I don't think you're interpreting it the right way, because people also interpret things their own way.
Right.
And it would be very manipulative to me the way he would. Like he definitely thought that, you know, I'm supposed to do X, Y, Z. Also, at one point I was the only one working. I definitely financially supported most of this. So to understand like what that looked like for me, I'm like, I could have been doing this just for me in the right space this whole time. So it took a lot. And I have a cat. So a lot of people don't know that, but fun fact, I have a cat. And so he would try to hurt my cat sometimes. And I'm like, oh no, he didn't do nothing to you. Like cats or any animal, they sense energy. So he would like either scratch him or like hiss at him. And then he would think he needed to punish the cat. Like anything that's against him, he did not like. And I'm just like, oh no, this is not it. Like I think I actually been praying out that relationship probably before I even remember doing it. But I just kept saying, God, give us an amicable split. Because I didn't want it to be out of the relationship because something happened to me. You know what I mean? Like I want to be out thriving. Because no.
So I'm sorry I cut you off earlier because of the
girl.
bad vegan thing, but you were talking about the mindset shifts
that
you actually had to go through in order to like fully step out in some other shifts.
Yeah, to realize, number one, how strong I was, like on my own, like as a person. I was also an only child. So I think I always used to long for a certain type of companionship just because I grew up just me and my mom. I grew up just me. Like I had really good friends, but it's something about companionship that I always wanted. And I think like I had to get out of that. It's not that I don't still like companionship. In my current relationship, best partner I could have asked for.
Boo
you know
is
what
the
I mean?
best.
Listen, top tier. Okay. But at the same time, like I had to realize the power I had on my own. And I don't think I did. Like he made everything into a we thing when it was really trying to be me boosting him. Or he would try to belittle me and be like, well, if you're not going to cook every night, I can find somebody else that did it just so he could make me cook. Like, they definitely will play a mind game, you know, in different ways. But I had to realize, like, no, I can do this. Like, all the money that I made or have made and will make, like, I need to be building out. How am I going to build out something for me when I'm supporting 2 people trying to do all these things? That's impossible. Like, God is not, I'm like, God brought me here for a reason. You know what I mean? Like, I know the devil does things too, but I really feel like there were certain things that strengthened me in a different way. And I just had to be able to say no. Like, just like with the communication with clients, I had to be able to, like, these aren't clients that are trying to hurt me. These are not people who are trying to abuse me. These are people who have put their trust in me to do things. The least I can do is tell them what's up. The least I can do is tell them what's going on. But it's literally, it was just a lot of prayer and just forcing myself to do it. Like, it was at the point where to even answer a hard question from a client, I would hurry up, type the answer, and throw my phone across the room. Because I didn't know how they would respond, and it was such a trigger. And then I realized after a few times, I'm like, oh, hadn't nobody hurt me. You know what I'm saying? Like, they want me to win. Like, I really didn't even realize I developed the mentality. And I tell people all the time, like, so this relationship ended right before the pandemic. Right. So this was before, you know, everybody was getting all their business together and things like that. So once the government, you know, said, okay, mask mandate, stay at home, that initial pandemic aspect, it was just kind of like, okay, well, I'm home, I'm healing. But I lived in that house still 2 years after he left. So energy is very much a thing. It can very much change your perspective. Like, I didn't realize how much it was bogging down. Like, I'll tell people, I didn't realize, even with him gone, I always had music on, or was always looking for something to do, or looking for a reason to go somewhere. Like, I thought I was fine because he no longer lived there. But in reality, I didn't have peace. I didn't have internal peace, and I wasn't trying to create it in my outer space. Like, when I finally moved out of that space, when you move a bookshelf and realize, like, oh, that's the wall I got thrown into. Like, that's a different type of reminder. That's a different type of, in the worst way though, motivation to get the fuck out. You know, like, just being transparent. So now that I'm in a new space, it's like to take that sigh of relief. Like, I know a lot of people, we talk about, like, you know, after a long day, you're just like, to wake up and just, and I can do that deep sigh all throughout the day and feel fine. I can sit in complete silence and feel fine. I can go on date night or do other things and feel fine. You know what I mean? And I didn't realize that I didn't have that.
How long did it take for you to get that, to get your peace?
I would say at least, honestly, I don't even think I was at peace until I finally moved out.
Got it.
So we'll say 2 years.
Got it. And then what was going on? I know you talked a little bit about, you know, emailing clients and being fearful of what their responses would be, and kind of having an expectation that they would hurt you as well. What else was going on in your business? Like, what did it look like from the front end? Did everything look good? Did you have to shut down? What was going on?
It looked like I picked up momentum, I feel like, because that was, like I said, that was also during the pandemic when stuff first happened. So it would be one of those situations where everything turned virtual, and my job is primarily virtual anyway. So it didn't really slow me down, but I felt like the need to do more. And one end, I was like, okay, I can catch up on everything because now nobody can't go nowhere. So now it's not going to follow me if a photo shoot can't happen because we literally can't do it. Everything's closed down. But at the same time, it made me feel like I needed to do more to catch up. So I'm like, okay, now I'm on my own. I have to make money. I have to do this. I have to do this. So then, like, I was coming up with all these other different services that I didn't realize until later were running me ragged. Like, I loved at one point. So I did this global conference at the beginning of the pandemic. And I had about 300 people book a 30 for 30 call with me, right? Like, I had no rules on it. Like, you can book more than one call. So I think it was 300 calls total. And it sounded good. But when you think about it, that's only $900.
30 minutes?
Right.
Oh, wait,
so,
$30?
$30.
For 30 minutes?
For 30 minutes. And I had never offered that. And these were people also from all around the world. So I was like, oh, I'm international. Like, it sound good. But then that's when you realize, like, I'm doing way more work. So I got through it, you know, because it didn't require me to do design work. These were literally just, you get to ask me questions about your brand for 30 minutes. And I did them for most of that year, so people could space them out. Like, it wasn't like all within a week or anything like that. But even still, it was a lot of talking, you know? And I'm like, I realized I don't want to do that. I like to create in silence now. Like, my piece started to look different as I started to having to find it. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So you had to go through a few different iterations of what you wanted, or not what you wanted. You had to go through a few different iterations of things to figure out what exactly it was that you wanted.
And then I had to realize too, like, what I felt like was healthy for me, what I felt like was okay for me. Because I'm like, oh, hey, these calls, you know, this isn't people being mad. Like, you know, you literally, it's 30 minutes. You just asking me questions. There's no way that you can get mad because it's not a service I owe. You know, I was trying to find my way out of always having to explain myself, but I couldn't skip that process, you know. And I met a lot of good people from that. I still have clients now that end up booking full projects, you know, because they connected on certain levels. Like, it was an interesting time, but it was rewarding in a lot of ways.
Is there anything about that time that you would have done differently?
Which time?
The entire experience. The relationship, the shifts in your business.
I wouldn't have tried to shrink to him, because I feel like we either wouldn't have got to the relationship point. And honestly, I don't even know when I got in the relationship. Like, so you know how usually a guy will like ask you, like, it got to the point where when we first started dating, he had just moved here. He was living with someone, his uncle, I believe. And he little by little just started moving his stuff into my apartment at the time. And that was my first apartment, like, after quitting corporate. So, and then next thing you know, every time I moved, he moved too. Like, there was never a conversation of moving in. There was never a conversation of we're actually together. Like, future conversations didn't look healthy in any sense of the word. It was just kind of like, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do this with you, or certain things like that. So I feel like it wouldn't have got to even that point if I had understood my worth more at the time. But I was also like 24. So
do you think that the entire experience helped you kind of set and form better boundaries?
Yes.
Both personally and with other people?
100%.
And what are some of those boundaries that you now have in place?
Like, now, I have 2 phone numbers, but there's personal and business. I think that is a very underrated boundary for people. They're like, I don't need that, but some people, I had formed all these unhealthy boundaries of letting clients have that number. Like, I wrote it off as this the business number, but when people are texting that and calling that all times a day because they think this is how to reach you, that's not a boundary. So I've had to even retrain clients now, like, this is not the primary way of communication. Unless we have a call scheduled, an actual phone call, because it's usually Zoom, I won't be on this phone unless I initiate conversation. So I'm able to put it down at night without being guilty, or it has all my business apps on it. So I know on my personal time, I'm not looking for all the business apps to be, and I'm not saying that I don't still have work to do sometimes when it's supposed to be a personal time, because that's kind of entrepreneur life for the most part, but it's easy for me to be like, you know what, I'm done with this for the day. And I'm unapologetic about that now. It was not always like that at all. I always felt like I needed to do more, to be more. And I'm like, no, you come to me for the vision. You know me. I will take your vision and make it mine. And when you have a head that's clouded, I can't do that. So
you said something, and I love that. You thought that you had to do more in order to be more.
Yeah.
Right? What now does that, like, moving to the next level look like for you? Does it mean that you're doing more?
It actually, I feel like I'm doing the same or less.
Okay.
And I'm not saying less meaning like she ain't doing no work, because that is a lie. But it's about being okay with delegation, being okay with, like I said, putting my phone down at a certain time. Like, we used to shoot any day of the week. If a client was available and we was available, we would do it. Now we try to have one shoot a week, just so I'm not overexerting and being in multiple places at one time. Like, all the things that used to be multiple things, or at certain points in the project, I have assistants to do that, like an assistant director, assistant designer, because if it's something that I may not have the strongest point of doing, I'm not ashamed to say that, but my job is still to bring the vision full circle. So it actually is me doing less, but still doing the most at the same time.
Right, because you're doing it with other people.
Exactly.
Right.
And being able to help other people. Like, I think that gets overlooked too. Like, delegation is cool. It sounds good when you're even just thinking about the perspective of, oh, I want to do less work. But delegation also is helping other people reach their goals, I feel like. Or at least it should be. At least that's a mission of myself and the Chloe Branding Company. I'm like, okay, what is your specialty? You know, when I work with people, I want to know what their specialty is. I typically would work with them first, so I know if they're a good fit or not, what their specialty is. And then I want to leave them in that zone of genius. So I may not need anything again until it's another similar project to that. Like delegation, my type of delegation is more so for the creatives, you know? Like I know we think about, you know, I need an assistant or a bookkeeper, and all those people, they can just remain in their zone of genius anyway, because their jobs don't really switch. But even just working with different photographers, working with different videographers, is because they each have a niche. And I feel like when they get to still have their own thing going on in their zone of genius, and I'm only bringing them on for a zone of genius, it helps them too to sharpen their skills and figure out what they want to do.
So before we get more into the business, I have one more question about the relationship.
Okay.
What advice would you give to someone who is currently experiencing domestic violence in their relationship? Domestic and or mental violence. Is the mental violence domestic?
I think mental
violence?
is part of domestic.
Right. Okay. So
like, because for me, it was definitely mental, physical, and emotional.
Right. Okay. So there's like many different aspects. So first of all, thank you for sharing what you've shared with me, with the audience. But what advice would you give to someone who may be currently experiencing some sort of violent relationship?
Dig deep. Like, first and foremost, dig deep, because I don't think I was doing that. Like, I think I was just trying to avoid the conflict. But the same way you would do your business, think about what you don't like doing. You'd have to do that in your life first. You have to think about, like, I don't like subjecting myself to this. I don't like, and I know it's easier said than done, because people always say just leave. And it's not always that easy. That's why I'm like, all I know how to do is pray to get out of this, because you know, at one point there was a thread about if I tried to leave. So you don't know what that person's capable of. Like, you think you do because you're with them, but you really don't. Even though, you know, they clearly have some healing to do, you still don't know how far they're gonna go. So dig deep and pray. Don't be ashamed if you can't just hurry up and get out of it. And, you know, if you can ask for help, ask for help. You don't have to take the approach that I did, as far as like, okay, I don't want to bring y'all into it, but hopefully my thought process in that makes sense for someone else too. Because sometimes I know that there's people who don't mind helping me and doing things for me, but I also know they have other people to protect as well. So it's like, you have to be selfish, but not all at the same time. And if you can find a lesson in it, find the lesson, hold on to it, and then continue to move forward.
And we'll make sure to have in the show notes some information for places that you can call if you are experiencing domestic violence and you want to seek help and you're not sure who to go to, who you can trust, and things like that. So if that is you, make sure you check the show notes for that. Yeah. So Big Chloe. I don't know. Is that a Big Lotto song? I hear like Big Chloe energy. Is that Big Lotto? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Is the word that she
No,
uses?
but I'm saying I'm putting your name in the song for some reason. That's her song?
Yes.
Okay, that's the song that I'm
singing. Is it on the
Rich
Rich Auntie playlist?
I think it is on the Rich Auntie playlist.
There's a Rich Auntie playlist, y'all.
Yes, so I have a Rich Auntie playlist. I have a Trap Auntie workout playlist. And we will be using that, you know.
Child, she introduced me to some of the songs on the playlist. I'm like, how you even know this? She started singing this one song. There's a whole different language, and I'm like, how are you this lit?
The song is horrible.
We don't know what they're saying either.
I know what they're saying because I Googled it, because I said, if I'm going to be singing this song in Spanish, I want to know what they're talking about. The song is talking about drugs. I'm not an advocate for drugs, but this song is lit, like the beat and everything. Okay, but I digress. You telling my business.
I'm just trying to help. I'm trying to give them context, because I'm like, I need them to know who you are, because we're not doing dry in this rebrand.
I need you to stop telling my business. So anyway, we're talking about you. So Big Chloe energy, right? See, this is what happens. Songs pop up in my head. That's just how it happens.
Fine. It's fine.
So Big Chloe energy, what does that mean?
I'm unapologetic. but not in the sense of the way that means I can cuss all the time. Like, I'm not really an over cusser. I'm a cuss, you know. I will drop an F-bomb, not finna lie or anything like that. But it's just being unapologetic about who I am and what I do, because it took me a lot to get here. Like, to understand what my vision was, how to put the right people in the place to create the visuals that I need. You know, it took me a lot. But Big Chloe energy is just that unapologetic, whatever makes me feel good and whatever makes the vision come out.
And so how do you then take your Big Chloe energy? I mean, I know the answer to this because she's doing it for me. But like, how do you take that energy and help your clients translate that into their brands?
I have to be able to stand on what I'm recommending to them. And I think, like I said, and we're probably going to use this since we started with that whole situation, like I'll use it probably as a reference. But then I couldn't do that because I didn't know how the client would take it. So even if they're completely happy with what I'm doing, I'm like, oh, well, instead of saying, well, what do you think about this, I'm fine saying, well, this is what we're doing. And this is why we're not doing that. Like, and it's not to negate how the client feels, but I'm taking your vision on as my own. And I know that every creative doesn't do it in the way that I do that. So to stand on Big Chloe energy is like, nah, like your vision is my vision, but I'm gonna make it bigger. So that's what that stands for. It's like, I see what you see. I hear you. I hear you, sis. But let's do this instead. But I'm also gonna tell you why. So I'm not gonna make an executive decision and not be able to stand on it and explain it to you. Because clients or anyone, if you're the service receiver, not provider, receiver, you know what you want to see. You know what you like. There's probably other brands you've looked at. It's like, I really like how they do X, Y, Z. But just because you like it doesn't mean your brand needs it. Right. It doesn't mean that it's going to flow with what you're looking to do. I also want to challenge you to think past what do you like now versus what have you liked in the past? What do you like going forward? Because your brand's supposed to evolve with you. Like, if you look at, so if anybody watches basketball, I love basketball. Another fun fact, nobody knows that. Oh yes, the playoffs is stressing me out right now.
Okay, who you an Atlanta Hawks fan?
By default.
Okay, they lost that. Yeah, they
don't.
Got okay,
why are we? Anyway, we're gonna stick with the Warriors for now because that's my safe zone. Okay, Atlanta be trying me, but when you watch that, every team this year, because of the 75th anniversary, rebranded. You can look back and see what like the old Hawks logos were. If you notice, they are never substantially different. Right. It's just a little tweak. A little something. And it's like now they had the retro jerseys, but they still look like these teams' jerseys. It don't look like, oh, this is a whole nother team. Now it's a couple teams. I'm like, so y'all
some of those colors, right? Some of the colors be throwing me off. I'll be like, wait a minute, where y'all pull baby
but see,
butter
the thing
pink
is,
from?
we may be not baby butter pink.
Like,
But see, this is what I'm saying. Like, we don't know the full color palette. That's why when people be like, I have 2 colors, I'm like, how? Right. How do you have 2 colors? What you gonna do with that? And I'm like, oh, we starting with at least 8. Right. Because when it's time to pull that one small color out, it's gonna make a complete difference, even though we didn't change the brand at all. It's just let's modernize a little bit. Let's smooth it out. But I try to stay timeless while giving it a soul stir.
What do you think is the biggest challenge you experience in working with clients? Because what you just described, and I get it, right? You want clients to have total trust in what you're doing, right? Because you're taking what they want and, like you said, making it bigger, but there has to be that trusting relationship there. So what do you find is the biggest challenge in working with, entrepreneurs and CEOs that you work with that are building these businesses as their baby, right?
I think the hardest challenge is sometimes it can be them not knowing what they want, but they know what they like. But sometimes those don't always connect, and sometimes they don't really matter because it's not all about you. Right. And I'm not saying that in a rude way to anybody that's taking this approach, but I promise you're going to step outside yourself a little bit. Now, another challenge, though, is they know too much of what they want, and they're not willing to let go because they've had this vision for so long, like, this is what I want to do, but no one's told them why that may not work. Like, that's why people will tell you all the time, there's a difference between a brand designer and a graphic designer. Those are not the same. Like, I can work with a brand designer even though I know how to design too. Like, graphic designers, they simply are doing the graphics. Like, you be like, okay, I just need a flyer. You ever just say, like, I need a flyer, and somebody makes a flyer for you, but that's it. It's for that one event. It may not even look like your brand. It's like, it's fine, though, because it's for a different event, so it can be blue. But even though your colors might not have nothing to do with blue, but that graphic design is really good, so the flyer is top tier. But you can have great designs and it not connect.
Right.
Like, I've seen people where I'll look at their branding and think it's bomb, but then meet the person and be like, this ain't that. But I also know that everybody's not looking for that. Right. Like, the ideal client isn't always saying, oh, well, this color don't look like her. Like, I can tell you what shade of orange looks like you. And not because it looks good on our skin, but like your aura, your energy, your values. Like, there's a lot of difference in that. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense to me. I want you to talk a little bit more in detail about it, because the way you think about color psychology is fascinating to me. Yeah. I hate picking colors. Let me just tell y'all, Chloe knows this. Even when I worked in the industry and we were developing products, and, you know, I was in the product development department, and one of the things was like, oh, look at this blue and this blue. And I'd be like, bro, that's the same blue. If you don't pick a blue, like, I just really don't, I don't care for it, right? And so the things that I know I'm not good at, no, that's why I work with you, right? The things that I know I'm not good at, the things that I know will take me a lot of time, because I will spin my wheels for weeks trying to pick out the color blue, right? And it just is not, it's not a good use of my time. Like, no. Right, so I'll just pick whatever. So talk a little bit more about the color psychology. You talked about the energy, the aura, how that represents. Break that down for people, what that really means. Because a lot of people are out here picking the same colors. And we need to, help the girls and the guys with their branding. So talk to me about color psychology and what you kind of go through in order to
I'm gonna try to make it a little general, because, you know, everybody's process is different for me. Right. Like, it's literally like, I can't cookie cutter it. Like, people don't realize. So, fun fact, y'all, I'm a color psychologist in real life, but I take a very different approach. I feel like I've talked to other graphic designers or brand designers, and their thought process is completely different. But I'm like, do you know what each color means? So first, I like to study the person, see what their energy is. And you have to understand if a person's warm. You have to understand, other than, okay, well, they're really professional, so I'm gonna stick with blues. Like, blue has a lot of other meanings, like calm and, you know, freshness. Like, there's green fresh, but then there's blue fresh. So there's also that. Like, if you think about baby shower blue, and I'm gonna call it baby shower blue, because y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. But you never see that all the time, other than at a baby shower. It doesn't mean other brands don't have light blue in there, but there's a certain baby, because you done said this baby butter pink or whatever you said, and it's stuck there now. But
that's a new color. I need to patent that. Okay. Yes.
I don't know what that looked like, y'all. But when you think about it, that's why you see now more people are doing like browns, because it's like, that's all you saw. It was always, you having a boy, you going to blue. You have a girl, there's gonna do pink. But the brown, it's not necessarily because they don't want to do the whole gender thing. It's an energy thing. It's warm. It's more inviting. It's more inclusive. Especially now that guys are going to baby showers. Yeah. You have to think of all these things. Like, I do an 8-color palette, but only 4 are primary. So when people come to me and say they only have those 4, I might have to extend their palette. Like, if I approve of their colors and I like them as is, I might have to extend it and then tell them why. Those first 4, I want to match with, number 1, how you are as the client, but also, what are you looking to do with the clients that you want to attract? Don't think about me. With the clients that you want to attract, what are we trying to make them feel? What do you want them to feel about you? What do you want them to feel about the product? Those are also 2 different feelings. So I like to think about all the things, and that's where those 4 come from. The next 2 would be essentially the complementary colors, so that way it can desaturate a little bit, because people get their brand colors and then that's all you see after that. And I'm like, I'm tired of seeing this color. I need you to do other things, which is why, you know, photos are a huge part. Even in photo shoots, you don't have to wear just your brand colors. Now, it helps that you have a setting, you know, that's probably a different color. If you find some that meet that criteria, cool. If you happen to find a purple chair cool. You know, we can make it work, but I wouldn't say every time you do a shoot, you need to be in that purple chair because it's the brand color.
Right.
Like, you can still do your own thing. It's about how they correlate. It's about how they match. And then the final 2 colors of that palette, circling back to the 8, is the ones that you use for very minute things. And they also have to be able to switch out with the primary colors for the seasons. Like, you don't need bright yellow in your palette because it's going to be winter at some point. And you're going to be looking like this. So you need to be able to switch. So that's why there's certain colors that I don't recommend. I won't say I'll never use, but you have to understand the function of those colors as they come together. So there's just a lot of interworkings, and I love that I'm able, me being Big Chloe, I'm able to stand on those inner workings and tell you why colors don't have to go together, why they do go together, what they represent, what they stand for, because there's still the scientific aspect too, but I'm not going to do that today.
So I feel like I asked you this question before, but I don't remember the answer, or maybe I do. But we're doing this on the podcast.
Just want to ask again.
If you weren't a chief branding officer, what would you be?
I would probably go back to influencing.
Oh yeah, I did ask you. Okay.
Yeah, I would probably go back to influencing just because, and I think I'm probably still going to get back into it in my own way. But like, a lot of people know me for that's what I started off with. But this was before it was like this bajillion-dollar industry. I was literally this is when everybody was using Big Cartel, y'all. So y'all know this is a minute ago with your 5 free products. Okay, am I telling my age? Okay. 5 free products. And I was literally reaching out to boutiques because everybody had a boutique at one point, and that was the entrepreneur. Like, you had a boutique. I was like, hey, I realize you're a small business. Do you need someone to promote it for you? I just asked. I'm like, well, if you send me clothes, I'm going to just post some pictures in it, you know? And I did that for a lot of small boutiques. Some are still in business, some didn't make it. But at the same time, like, I used to love that, and I would still buy the clothes from some of them. Like, if it's something I really liked, they would at least, like, sell them to me at cost because they were such small businesses. They couldn't afford to just give clothes out. But it's like, now I think if I do it again, I'll have found more meaning in the products that I actually use. Because I was literally just reaching out to boutiques to help. Like, not because I specifically liked everything. Like, of course I wouldn't reach out for something I thought wasn't cute. But now it's like, but will I use it?
So were you wearing some ugly stuff?
Okay, this was years ago, so
I
they might be ugly
say the
now.
brand. I'm just saying, like,
They
back
might be
in the
ugly now.
day, in that time, like, were the outfits ugly?
I think I liked them for the time being.
Okay, it was a different style.
Yes.
Okay, what color was your hair?
It was still regular.
It was
like
black?
Brown? It was like
what color is your
blonde.
natural hair?
It was like I'm dark brown, but it was like a blonde, strawberry blonde.
You had strawberry blonde hair? Okay.
At one point, it was like an orangey blonde.
But it wasn't, but the looks for that time, it was like what was in for that.
Yeah, I definitely wore the classic natural brown sew-in, though. So,
okay.
So I think I was in between. Like, I went from, my natural color to streaks to the full thing. Now, I was still a baddie with blonde, though.
Now that we're talking about hair, let's talk about this French roll.
If anybody, just so y'all know, I was not an adult with a French roll.
I need you to tell the story about the French roll.
Okay, y'all. Okay? I was 13 with this French roll, and this was like the ultimate auntie French roll with the snail curl thing, the pin curls with the snail.
But it was a
French
French roll on micro braids.
Okay, there was 2 French
telling
rolls.
all your
I didn't
business.
tell you about the other French roll.
Oh, you talking about a different French roll?
Yes.
All right. I want you to tell the body roll story with the French roll.
Why do we need to revisit these moments?
Because
y'all, I was in 6th
they
grade.
need to know.
I was in 6th grade, and like, it was my first like school dance, right? So let me tell y'all. So I wore this blue dress. Y'all remember Body Shop? Not like where the candles and stuff at, but Body Shop, the store with the little stretchy clothes. Okay. So I had a dress from there, but I thought it was real cute, and it was almost this color. That's crazy. It's probably like 2 shades lighter. It's clearly my color, but it was probably a couple shades lighter than this. It was slinky, and like, I had never been out with my other friends who like knew how to twerk a little bit. It wasn't called.
It wasn't.
I don't think it was called
twerking.
twerking.
It was
back
just like
then.
dance, right?
Booty shaking.
Okay.
It was literally just booty shaking. So like, I had never done that, but it was more like a body roll. So it still wasn't a booty shake. Like, I hadn't got that down yet. It was like a.
Can we get a demonstration?
We not finna do that, but it was from the side, y'all. Like, you know, if you think about like old school R&B, Bobby Brown on stage type body rolls, it was kind of like that. And so, but with that outfit, I had micros, but since it was the school dance, I got the micros done into a French roll. Oh, and it was some micros hanging down. So it was like a half up, half down.
Was they like Shirley Temple curl?
Yeah.
How did I know that? We are telling our age at this point.
It was top tier. I don't care. If I found a picture, I would have held it up to the camera for y'all. But
we're going to get the picture and put that in the video. Or put it in the show notes so people can click on it.
No, we're not doing that.
You gonna post it on social?
And then I love the French roll so much. I didn't tell you this part. Last day of school, 6th grade year. I then got my hair done just for the last day of school. I've always been like a little over the top. So got my hair done but my real hair, minus the stuffing of the French roll. And like had like the pin curls around the side. And then I wore a white off the shoulder shirt, some blue wide, I don't know what it is, me and blue, it's clearly my thing. Wore some blue wide leg pants with K-Swiss.
Oh,
so I was dressed
to have
up.
Some K-Swiss.
Yo, I was
what
dressed up
yours?
with my French roll, but with sneakers on. Like, now that I think about it, it was just really bad. But the outfit was cute. Like,
what color were your K-Swiss? I
was
mad.
white.
My parents, they didn't have white K-Swiss, so I had to get the white and green joints. They had the green stripes on the side.
Look, I thought I was too cute because I had the all white pair, but there was the tongue twisters, and they twisted to the red tongue when I wanted to be spicy.
Okay, see, yeah, mine were horrendous. Like I remember K-Swiss.
But do you remember the twist tongue though?
I do. I couldn't find them in my size.
I think I got red because our school was in uniforms, and so our colors was red, black, and gray. So I would switch it to red on the days where like I wanted to match my shirt.
Okay.
My little collar shirt.
Girl, yeah. Okay. We're not talking about that no more. So, listen.
Yo, I've come a long way for the purple hair, okay? Listen.
I want you to tell everyone where they can find you and what you may have coming up. Yeah, she in these streets.
I'm legit out here. I'm kidding. I'm always inside in my now peaceful home. But
amen.
I am at the Chloe brand on Instagram, really on all the things. I'm at the Chloe brand. That's where I be at. Business is at the Chloe Branding Co. So everything is streamlined, straight to the point. If you don't find one, you should find the other.
I love you, Chloe. Thank you for joining me so much. This has been such a pleasure. I hope you all enjoyed this episode, and we will see you.
Thank you for having me.